Okay, let's dive in. We're looking today at, well, what we're calling the foundation of honest communication.
Yeah, it's a really crucial thing, isn't it? How to navigate that tension.
Exactly. Between being truly honest, like radically honest sometimes.
And also being empathetic, caring about the other person. It's a tightrope.
It really is. And it's something everyone faces, right?
Hmm.
Leaders, parents, creatives, anyone who works with people.
Absolutely. And managing that tension, that's often the difference between, high-performing teams and, well,
Yeah.
disaster.
Communication breakdown.
Yeah. And for this deep dive, we've pulled from quite a mix of sources. Leadership stuff, creativity insights from places like Pixar, even military strategy.
And ancient philosophy, too. Roman ideas about duty. It's quite the spread.
It is, but they all point towards this balance.
So our goal here is to synthesize these different views, to
Yeah.
figure out how to get that balance right, the honesty and the empathy.
Right, and to avoid what one of the sources calls the fool's choice. I love that term.
Me too. Explain that a bit. What's the fool's choice?
It's this idea, this flawed assumption that when things get tough, you only have two options.
And they're both bad options, right?
Exactly. Option one, silence. You bite your tongue, avoid the conflict, maybe mince words, let the problem just sit there and fester.
We've all done that.
Oh, absolutely. Option two, violence. And not necessarily physical, but, verbal violence. Throwing insults, dominating, being overly harsh, maybe even cruel.
So you either say nothing meaningful or you attack. That's the choice.
That's the fool's choice. Because it assumes you can't have both truth and respect.
And most people, I think, lean towards silence, especially at work.
Yeah, often we panic about how to say the difficult thing. We know what needs saying, maybe.
Like this project is off the rails or
Uh-huh.
your performance isn't meeting expectations.
Right. Clear what? But then the how. How do I say that? Without causing offense, without getting HR involved, without damaging the relationship.
And that panic about the how just dilutes the what.
Completely. You end up sugarcoating, dancing around the issue. That difficult message you mentioned, like, I don't think you're ready to manage people yet. We need to move you back to an individual role.
Oof, tough one.
It is. And it gets watered down to, so, how do you think things are going? Maybe we could chat about collaboration sometime.
Which achieves nothing.
Worse than nothing, maybe. Because the problem isn't solved, and the lack of clarity just erodes trust over time.
Okay, so the key is rejecting that either.
Yeah.
The silence or violence thing.
Exactly. You have to force creativity. Ask the and question.
Which is?
How can we have this really candid, honest conversation and actually make the relationship stronger?
The and. So honesty in relationship building, not one or the other.
Precisely. That question challenges the whole flawed setup. It pushes you past the easy outs of silence or aggression towards something, well, productive, a third way.
It's a mental shift, isn't it? From fear to problem solving.
Totally transformative. Once you believe both are possible, your approach changes. But, and this is key, it has to start internally. Before you fix the external conversation, you need the right internal paradigm.
Right. Which brings us nicely to our first section, the inner game of candor. This idea of cultivating the care personally dimension, it starts inside you.
It really does. Our sources, especially those looking at interpersonal effectiveness, they really hammer this home. Habits 4, 5, 6 in one model. It's about emotion, fundamentally, not intellect.
Not just having the right words lined up.
No, it's about your own emotional state, your own sense of personal security.
Okay, unpack personal security. What does that mean here?
It means your sense of self-worth isn't tied to external things. It doesn't come from your job title or how much money you make or whether people like you or even from following some script perfectly.
It has to come from within, from your own principles, your core values.
Exactly. Deep principles held internally. Because think about it. If you're insecure, if you need to be liked or need to be the smartest person,
Then, having a tough conversation where someone disagrees with you feels like a personal attack.
right, it's threatening. Your anxiety spikes, you can't listen properly, you can't articulate clearly. This idea of emotional intelligence managing your own feelings, enthusiasm, fear, whatever, it's like a master switch.
It either helps or hinders everything else.
Totally. And this internal security also dictates how you handle mistakes, your own and others.
How so?
Well, the sources stress that covering up a mistake, trying to hide it or pretend it didn't happen, that does way more damage to your own integrity, your own sense of self, than the mistake itself ever could.
It makes the mistake bigger somehow.
Yes.
Gives it power.
Yeah, exactly. The cover-up magnifies it. The anxiety shifts from the error to the concealment. But if you're internally secure,
You can just own it.
you can acknowledge it instantly, correct it if possible, and crucially, learn from it. That whole process turns the failure into a success, into useful data. It's not a reflection on your worth, it's just information.
Okay, so internal security is the bedrock. What's next for the care personally side?
If you have that security, you can genuinely adopt what's called the win-win paradigm.
Win-win. We hear that term a lot. What does it really mean in this context?
It's a mindset and a heart set, really. Seeking mutual benefit, looking for a third alternative where everyone feels okay with the outcome, everyone feels committed. It fundamentally rejects the idea that for me to win, you have to lose.
It sees life, or at least interactions, as cooperative, not fundamentally competitive.
Right. And what's fascinating is that failures in cooperation, they usually don't come from bad people necessarily. They often come from a screwed up paradigm, maybe imposed by the system or the leadership.
Ah, so the environment can force people not to cooperate, even if they want to?
Definitely. There's this great example in one source. A manager who desperately wanted teamwork, talked about it all the time, collaboration, shared ideas.
That's good so far.
Yeah, but then he dramatically unveiled this chart, like a horse race. Each manager was a horse, competing neck and neck for some big prize, like a fancy trip.
Oh, dear. So he was saying cooperate, but rewarding compete.
Exactly. He wanted the results of cooperation, but the entire system screamed competition. One person's win was literally another's loss on that chart. The problem wasn't the managers being selfish, it was the structure.
So to get to win-win, you can't just tell people to be nice. You might need to change the whole system.
You absolutely do. You need to change the structure of rewards, the culture. It's deeper than just a technique.
And this idea of mutual benefit, does it scale up to the whole team or organization?
It has to. It leads to this idea of dedicating yourself to a higher collective purpose.
Meaning, what? Putting the team's goals ahead of your own departments, maybe.
Yeah, or even your own personal ambitions sometimes. Making your goals secondary to the bigger picture, even if it feels like a sacrifice.
That sounds challenging, especially in business.
And
Isn't the goal usually maximizing income or hitting specific targets?
well, yes, in a typical market economy. But there's this concept called net positive, which argues that even maximizing income should be subordinate to principles focused on long-term benefit for everyone involved, stakeholders, community, environment, not just shareholders.
That's a big shift.
Hmm.
But practically, how do you get someone to let go of their team's goal, something they've worked hard on, for the sake of the greater good? It could feel like losing their identity or abandoning their work.
It's tough. Look at IBM's big transformation historically. They realized they needed a single, unified brand. Customers didn't want to deal with warring IBM factions. They wanted one IBM.
Makes sense from the customer's view.
Right. But achieving that internally required a huge cultural shift.
Right.
Leaders had to constantly fight against what the sources call the arrogance of success, this belief that my silo, my department is the best.
So what was the sacrifice they had to make? What did subordinating their goals look like?
It meant giving up control, giving up their own departmental budgets, their own little marketing teams, their internal fiefdoms. To build the unified brand, they needed a collective strategy, collective budgets.
So personal power had to be surrendered for the collective strength.
Exactly. It probably felt like abandonment to some, like giving up something vital, but it was essential for the whole company's survival and strength. That's the ultimate test of caring personally, caring more about the collective success than your own ego or your own patch.
Okay, so if we've got that internal foundation, the security, the win-win mindset, the focus on collective purpose, that's the care personally part sorted, at least in theory. Now, how do we actually do the challenging part, the challenge directly dimension?
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's about the execution. Specific, timely feedback aimed squarely at the work, not the person.
And the creative world, like film, seems like a great place to see this in action.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost a laboratory for candid feedback because without it, films just, they don't work or they're mediocre. Pixar is the classic example here with their brain trust.
Tell us about the brain trust. What made it work?
It was this group, basically Pixar's top creative minds, John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, Pete Docter, folks like that, who came together during the making of Toy Story. Their core promise to each other was simple. Always tell the truth about the film.
Brutal honesty.
Candid honesty, delivered without malice, but with absolute clarity. They realized that kind of feedback, while rare, was totally essential for making great films. It wasn't about ego. It was about making the movie better.
So what makes feedback good in that context? A good note.
They had pretty strict rules, actually. A good note had to be specific. It had to say clearly what's wrong or what's missing or what's unclear.
Not just, I didn't like it.
Definitely not. I'm bored in the second act is useless. A good note diagnoses why you're bored. The stakes don't feel high enough here because the villain's motivation is unclear. That's specific.
Okay. Specificity.
Timeliness. The note has to come early enough that you can actually fix the problem without derailing the whole production or costing a fortune.
Makes sense. Too late, and it's just demoralizing.
Exactly. And crucially, a good note shouldn't make demands. It shouldn't say, you must do X. If you offer a solution, it's just an illustration, like maybe something like this could work. But the director receiving the note still owns the problem and the solution.
So it's not prescriptive, it's diagnostic.
Beautifully put. And Andrew Stanton had this great insight. Constructive criticism has to construct while it criticizes. It needs to offer building blocks, not just tear things down.
How does that change the feel of it?
It shifts it from condemnation to inspiration. Instead of saying, this dialogue is weak, you might ask, don't you want people walking out quoting these lines? You've got the talent. Let's get it there.
Ah, so you're connecting the critique to their own ambition, their own potential.
Precisely. It becomes about achieving something great together, not just pointing out a flaw.
That principle of clear, direct challenge.
It applies outside creative fields too, right? Like in the military.
Absolutely. High-stakes environments rely on it. Think about decentralized command. You need people on the front lines to be able to make decisions quickly, autonomously.
But those decisions need to align with the overall goal.
Exactly, and that's where commander's intent comes in. It's the leader's job to make sure everyone down to the frontline troop understands how their specific actions contribute to the big picture success.
What's the ultimate objective here?
Not just what to do, but why we're doing it.
Precisely. Clarity on the why allows people to adapt and make smart choices even when the plan changes or communication breaks down, which it always does in dynamic situations.
It's easy for leaders to just assume everyone gets the strategy, isn't it?
Very easy. But you have to actively communicate it. Get out of the office, talk to people, see what's happening on the ground, understand their reality to connect their tasks back to the intent.
Otherwise, people just focus on ticking boxes.
Yeah, they fall into the trap of doing things right, following the process perfectly instead of doing the right thing, the action that actually serves the strategic goal. You can have an amazing team, great information sharing, tons of trust. But if they still feel they need permission for every little thing because the intent isn't clear.
They're paralyzed.
Exactly. Clarity on intent unlocks autonomy and effective action.
Okay, so clear intent, specific feedback. What about how the feedback is delivered? You mentioned focusing on the work, not the person.
This is huge, maybe the most powerful part of challenging directly. Depersonalize the critique. Focus laser-like on the problem, not the person who made the mistake or created the work.
Any examples of this?
Steve Jobs was apparently a master at this in his own way. When giving notes on films, he'd often preface it with something like,
What?
look, I'm not really a filmmaker, so you can probably ignore everything I'm about to say.
Seriously, even though he's Steve Jobs.
Yeah. And then he'd proceed to give incredibly sharp, accurate notes on the film's structure or story problems.
What did that disclaimer achieve?
It instantly shifted the focus. It wasn't about his authority or about judging the filmmaker's talent. It became purely about the work on the screen. It kind of disarmed the recipient, allowed them to hear the critique without defensiveness.
Because it wasn't personal. It was about the film.
Exactly. Critiques that feel personal, maybe driven by ego or rivalry, we instinctively dismiss those. But critiques focus purely on the work's integrity, on the problem itself. Those are hard to ignore if you care about doing good work.
It taps into professionalism rather than personality.
Right. And this lines up perfectly with older philosophical ideas too, like the basis of a good reputation of praise that lasts has to be justice, focusing on the merit of the act, the quality of the work, not getting swayed by personal feelings. The ultimate rule is focus on what's right, what serves the work, not what serves personal agendas.
Okay, so we have the inner game of caring personally and the mechanics of challenging directly. But none of this works in a vacuum, right? You need the right environment.
Absolutely critical. You need a culture of trust and learning, an environment where honesty can actually thrive.
And a big part of that seems to be how the environment handles failure.
Yes. especially in creative or innovative fields. Aiming for zero failures, that's actually dangerous.
Why dangerous? Sounds safe.
It leads to mediocrity. If you're terrified of failing, you'll just repeat safe, boring formulas. You won't take risks, you won't innovate. It signals a total lack of ambition.
So the goal isn't to eliminate failure.
No, it's to make failure less expensive, make it survivable, allow people to fail smart.
How do you do that?
Well, Pixar's model is brilliant here. They spend years in development, the story phase, lots of iteration, trying things out, failing, but it's relatively cheap. Pencil sketches, storyboards. You figure out the problems before you spend hundreds of millions on animation.
Fail early, fail cheap.
Exactly. They learned this the hard way with Toy Story 2. It started as a lower stakes direct-to-video thing, but they realized halfway through it just wasn't good enough. It didn't meet their standard.
What did they do?
They basically scrapped a huge chunk of it and remade it to meet their quality bar, even though it cost a fortune and immense stress. The lesson was, we cannot tolerate second-class work. Quality isn't just a goal, it's a mindset, a prerequisite. You have to confront the reality that something isn't working, no matter how painful.
That commitment to quality over cost or schedule is intense.
It is, and you see a similar principle in how some companies set goals, like Google with their OKRs objectives and key results.
Right, I've heard about that. They don't expect people to hit 100% on their objectives.
Generally, no. Hitting around 70% on average was considered a success.
Why aim so high then? Why not set goals you can actually hit?
Because the goals were designed to be stretch goals, to push teams beyond their comfort zone, to force ambition. If everyone was hitting 100% all the time, it meant the goals weren't ambitious enough.
So the culture accepts, even expects, some degree of failure or falling short as a byproduct of striving for big things.
Exactly. The failure is tolerated because the ambition is demanded. It creates this healthy tension.
Okay, so confronting reality, embracing failure. What else makes up this environment of honesty? What about day-to-day communication?
Avoiding evasion and abstraction is key. Little failures in communication add up.
Evasion like?
Like constantly talking about us and we when you really mean you or I. Using vague language.
We need to improve communication.
Yeah.
Or the team seems stressed.
Right. It sounds like you're just observing, not participating or taking responsibility. It's abstract, generalized. You're dodging ownership.
So how do you counter that?
There's a simple, powerful tool, the focus question. When someone's being vague, you just gently ask, so what's the real challenge here for you?
Bringing it back to the individual, from we to you or me.
Exactly. It cuts through the abstraction, forces them to connect the big issue to their specific role, their required action. What can you actually do about this?
Does that feel confrontational?
It can, but often a gentle nudge is enough. Most people don't mean to be evasive. They're just defaulting to comfortable, vague language. Redirecting them back to I and me often gets communication back on a direct, accountable track. It's about focusing on the individual's sphere of influence.
Okay, so confronting reality, avoiding evasion.
Yeah.
It all seems to circle back to trust, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Trust is the bedrock. The Pixar brain trust only worked because everyone trusted that the feedback, however harsh, was given in service of the common goal, make the movie better.
It wasn't about personal attacks or ego.
No, everyone had to check their ego at the door, no trying to score points, no trying to look smarter than the director. That shared trust, that absence of ego, that's what allows for healthy conflict.
And without trust, you don't get that healthy conflict.
You get the opposite. People don't feel safe challenging ideas. They hold back. Then, because they haven't really debated or aired their concerns,
they don't truly commit to the decisions made.
Exactly. You get fake agreement in the meeting. Yeah, sure, sounds good, but zero real buy-in afterwards.
Which leads to a lack of accountability, because nobody really owned the decision in the first place.
It's a chain reaction. Lack of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, poor results. Trust breaks the cycle.
So candor isn't cruel if it's built on that trust and empathy.
Precisely. It's built on the idea that we're in this together. The challenge comes because we care, because we believe in the other person's potential, because we share the same goal. It's the highest form of professional empathy, really.
Which brings us to a really crucial point, the ethical dimension. If this whole framework is about caring and challenging, there must be times when it's tempting to, well, misuse it, or to prioritize something else over doing the right thing.
Absolutely. This is where character truly comes into play. Choosing what's right over what's merely expedient or easy or profitable.
Expediency. Doing what seems advantageous in the short term, regardless of morality.
Right. And sources going way back, like Cicero talking about ancient Rome and Greece, they saw this danger clearly. He noted how often wrong actions are taken, especially in politics or state affairs, under the guise of expediency.
Like the example of the Athenians and the Aegeans.
Yeah, a chilling one. Athens feared Aegena's naval power, so instead of a costly war, they apparently proposed just cutting off the thumbs of all Aegean sailors. Quick, efficient, neutralizes the threat. Expedient.
But horrific. Cruel.
Exactly, and Cicero's point is profound. Nothing that is cruel can truly be expedient in the long run, because cruelty violates our fundamental human nature, which should be our moral compass. Short-term gains from injustice always undermine the character and stability of the person or the state. You have to value what's right above the appearance of public benefit.
There's that other amazing story, Themistocles and Aristides.
Oh, a classic illustration of this. After a huge victory, Themistocles comes to the Athenian assembly with a secret plan. Super advantageous for Athens, he says, but too secret to reveal publicly.
So they choose someone trustworthy to hear it privately.
Right. And they choose Aristides, known as Aristides the Just. So Aristides hears the plan, which was to secretly sail over and burn the entire Spartan fleet while it was docked, wiping out their main rival. Strategically brilliant, completely game-changing.
But morally.
Well, Aristides goes back to the assembly where everyone's waiting on tenterhooks, and he just says, the plan of Themistocles is very advantageous, but utterly devoid of right.
And what did the Athenians do? Did they want to know the juicy, advantageous details?
Nope. They immediately concluded, if it's not right, it can't truly be expedient, and they rejected the plan unseen purely on Aristides' moral judgment.
Wow. That's a high bar for prioritizing ethics over advantage.
It really is. It shows a collective character prioritizing justice. And this principle applies personally, too, like when choosing who to help or associate with.
Also,
The sources warn against letting the admiration of wealth corrupt our judgment. We're often tempted to favor the rich and powerful over someone who is poor but has outstanding character.
because the rich person seems more expedient to help or be connected to.
Exactly, but the question shouldn't be, how rich is this person? It should be, what sort of person are they? Character over circumstance, justice over expediency.
This ethical framework really highlights the difference between genuine leaders and, well, manipulative
As
ones.
a stark contrast, yeah. The manipulative leader, the one who plays the fox, relies on concealment. Being a great liar, a hypocrite, always having plausible excuses for breaking promises.
Believing that deceit is the path to success.
Yeah, explaining people's fears or desires, knowing that there are always people ready to be deceived. Their power is built on illusion, the illusion of caring, while serving themselves.
Whereas the other path, the character-driven path,
Is about acting selflessly for a greater good.
Mm.
Emerson talks about this beautifully. He notes how many people try to cover up their lack of real character by showcasing some minor talent, being useful or charming or making money.
distracting us with their skills.
Right. It's like throwing dust in our eyes. But that talent, that utility, it doesn't give them inner peace or true strength. Real worth, true character, that's the enduring power that eventually overshadows all the superficial stuff.
So, effective, honest communication isn't just a technique you learn.
Not at all. At its heart, it's a reflection of the speaker's moral character.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the inner game to the outer mechanics, the environment, the ethics.
And what seems to emerge, really, is that this whole effort, caring personally while challenging directly, it's fundamentally about character.
It demands that internal security we talked about
Right.
to handle the discomfort.
Yeah, and the commitment to win-win, to the collective good over just yourself. And crucially, the moral courage to choose right over easy or right over expedient.
It connects strongly to those philosophical ideas about duty, too, doesn't it?
Very much so. The idea that just acquiring knowledge, just contemplating things, isn't enough. It's considered incomplete, even defective, unless it leads to action.
And a most important action.
Action that serves the well-being of others, care for humanity. That's why duties related to society, justice, honesty, candor towards our colleagues, our communities are seen as even more important than duties related solely to gaining knowledge.
Like if your friend was in danger, you wouldn't sit around finishing your book, you'd act.
Exactly. Justice, serving others, takes precedence over abstract learning.
So it all comes back to applying these principles in our interactions.
Which leads us to maybe the highest form of wisdom discussed in these texts. It's not just about passively submitting to necessity, like gritting your teeth through a tough conversation because you have to.
What is it then?
It's about actively knowing and believing that the hard thing necessity requires that difficult, candid conversation, perhaps is actually the wisest, the best, the thing that's truly needed in that moment. It's embracing the discipline not as a burden, but as freedom.
The discipline that equals freedom. Wow. Okay, so that leaves us with a final thought to chew on.
Go for it.
How often do we let our own fear of discomfort, that feeling of, ugh, I have to have this hard conversation, stop us? Stop us from delivering the honest, candid truth that someone else actually needs for their own growth, their own good.
It's a powerful question. Do we avoid the stern thing, necessity orders, because it's uncomfortable for us, even when we know it might be the best, wisest thing for them?
Believing that the hard truth is the kindest thing in the long run, that's the challenge. That's the character.